hate, I'm defying. Hard labor, I came here to modify the system. Take them down if they ain't listening. Straight demolition. From young, everything resistant. Good times I don't really miss them. Gotta pay the cost, no tick. Wick, this hard labor and I'm kicked. Never fit in with the crowd or got into politicking. You can tell I'm built different, trust me. It'll be a sequence of events if you touch me. Even when the women do it love. I've been eye to eye with great people, but you'll be mistaken if you put another one above. Hello everyone, welcome to This Week in Tyranny. It's the most hardcore show on earth. Yes, I'm taking the news out of the show. It's not a news show, especially not today. We're gonna get started. My name is Conrad Rogers. My website's truthandlaw.com. A whole lot of harsh truth in this one. So we talk about tyranny and everything. We're talking about oppression. What is the greatest oppression in the world is the question I asked myself before making it. And my answer is this kind of self-sabotage, self-deprecation. It's inadequacy. It's a lack of confidence. It's defeatist thinking or a victim mentality. All of these things that will make more sense what I'm actually talking about. So first, we got to start with the beginnings, right? We got to start with the driving force. So I'm not the first to say this, but I'm going to be the first to say it in this way with the key distinction. So we go into the original source of life, the first fundamental blocks of life. What makes the universe work, right? That's where you got to get started. What makes life life? So the answer is love. Love powers the world. People used to say that. I didn't really understand what it meant. So the word is loaded. I was just listening to Michael Tsarion talk about it. So he uses the word care, but all of these words have become loaded. But I'll untangle them. In the most basic sense, love powers the world, literally powers it. So molecules get excited. That's actually the scientific term for that, like excitation of the molecules that creates motion, right? And that motion brings different molecules together. They crash together, they bounce off of each other. And that motion or vibration has created all of the different building blocks and elements of the world and all the different complexities of it. So this is literally the same thing as that singular white light when it hits a glass prism. And on the other side, you get all the colors of the rainbow. They show up as the entire visible electromagnetic spectrum. That all comes from that white light, right? That white light contains all of those different colors. So that's the same exact thing. Love is the fuel of the universe. So you can imagine love separating into all these different forms that we understand as these different words, these concepts. Confidence, drive, motion, like nourishment, care, all of these different things. But love is the original fuel that goes in. It's the literal energy of the universe. So when you're out of fuel, you're on E. That's called fear. It's the absence of love. And this is what we call pessimism as opposed to optimism. But like love is an inherently optimistic concept. Fear is when you have no motion, right? Because you have no fuel. There's no movement there. And this is why the way we talk about it, when you're scared, you kind of freeze up. That's why it's called being paralyzed, petrified, right? Turning to stone, frozen in fear. When you're relaxed, you're very loose, right? Isn't that what we say? Like loose, a lot of motion, as opposed to being tight and nervous, frozen, okay? So there's a statement that we think that we get, and it stops all motion. So in other words, it's the antithesis of liberty, is why it's on the show. So this is what puts you into a standstill. It's the idea that you will not and cannot succeed. And it comes out in the phrase I think most universally recognizes, you're not good enough, right? I'm not good enough is what we tell ourselves. That you're inadequate and you're not as good as this other person. So this is where we feel, when we feel we are inadequate, not only we are not where we want to be, but we don't even want to try to get out of the situation. So it's not just that you're there feeling inadequate, it's that there's a lack of fight there. There's an acceptance of that as an inevitability. So I'm not talking about being afraid of danger or real physical consequences like a deer where, the deer sees the headlights and they freeze up. With us, I'm talking about the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, conceptual fears, right? These are the things that enslave us. It's wanting to avoid failure and rejection. So we tell ourselves we can't accomplish this,
this isn't yours to have, and you're not good enough to have that. So as I'm gonna go into this, I realize what it sounds like. Okay, it's easier said than done, and I think some people, if you're watching this, you might say like, yeah, easy for you to say. They'll point to all of the things, I got going for me. You know how to express yourself, you're strong, or whatever other gifts I may have. They'll think most people don't have that, so where are they supposed to get your confidence from? So my response to that is like, yes, I've been fortunate, partially by what I was born with, and partially by my family providing me with the environment to develop myself. But trust me, it's not all confidence. There are curses, there are struggles, there are challenges. For me, I can only talk about me. So I got challenges unique to me that people haven't experienced and don't understand what that's like. And your gifts work the same way, except people see them. So everybody sees your gifts. They say, damn, I wish I could have what he has. But people don't see your curses. They don't see these things you're carrying. And nobody envies you for those, right? So we're not all that much different as far as this balance between gifts and curses. We all have this. Now, another one of my main points here is we as human beings are at a stage where we value right now, 2024, the most apparent and the most physical gifts the most. And this is what makes women crazy. Everyone wondering why women have totally gone nuts recently into another reality. It's because have had inadequacy socially programmed and conditioned into them. Why? Because the value system has changed to evaluate women based on physical attributes. Not in the normal primal way, but in a imbalanced way. And now those physical attributes are just as real as male physical attributes, right? But males were not evaluated in that way until a personal connection is made. So the counter argument would be like, wait a minute, men are totally evaluated on their looks, like especially height. Nowadays, a lot of women look at a certain look, like a pretty boy look, a certain physique. Okay, so of course, you have the right to want what you want. But with men, it's still on pace with your ability. Women care about money too, right? Just kidding, right? Just kidding. But your presence, what ideas you communicate, your hobbies, what you initiate, you have like more ways out of that. Whereas, I'm not trying to be imbalanced towards men or women. I'm just saying with women, they don't really have that many options to be something else desirable, right? So, and this has actually gone the other way though in the last 15 years or so, where most women are the ones who choose men totally based on their appearance. That's been a phenomenon in the last, 15, 20 years. I've noticed it is things aren't like how they used to be. But still, I would contend that this doesn't damage men in the way it damages women, because with men there are other options for men to be valued and admired for. Okay? With women are evaluated physically so far ahead before they come around to being evaluated based on their mind, their character, their passion, their values, good conversation, good company. And we didn't necessarily do this. What television programming has turned into, social media, and this universal broadcast of what is desirable, that's what created it. It breeds inadequacy because it sends a message, an image of what is desirable. And that image of what is desirable that gets broadcast to us, only like 1% of women fit that mold. And 99% are going to fall short in some way. So, and like you may not be concerned with that as a guy. I may not be concerned with that. But they are, because it's so out in the open. It's so emphasized that you can't avoid it. You can't go on YouTube without being blasted with one of these Instagram models. And high intensity imagery, this is like radioactive this is a force that we are not tough enough for yet, right? It's like a burning light. High intensity imagery is a psychological warfare tactic employed to destroy women. Straight up eugenics. Okay? That's a whole nother idea. But yeah, and it's straight up satanic subversion. It's people who hate humanity. They want to destroy the things that make us human. They don't want to celebrate the things that make us human. They can't have that, so they want to fuck it up for us. Satanic subversion. That's why you get that. Men, of course, have their own version of that attack, that war being waged on them. It's called pornography. Same idea. But the conclusion of what I'm trying to get across here is that we value the visible way, way, way too much, and the unseen, invisible, not nearly enough. So when we talk about confidence, it's way beyond the visible sources of confidence that you see. Every person has their own internal anguish that holds them back from being confident and going out and doing the things they want to do. So don't fall for this distorted concept of what you have to be in order to deserve rewarding experiences. So when you talk about value, things to be confident about, the ultimate value of a man or woman is in what choices they make, they have decided to be, the ideal that you've decided to pursue, not what nature handed to you, but what you made nature give you through an act of your will and choice. So God helps those who help themselves is the point, and God helps those that truly love others. Both of those are based in confidence. This is the crux of it, is confidence. I stress confidence because it's a prerequisite for love. Any healthy relationship to another person, a thing or an idea, a concept, to love anything, it requires you to be confident. You have to feel good about yourself in order to seek better people and better things and better outcomes. You have to feel that you deserve that. And that's the primary function of morality. That's its purpose, is to make things better than what they are now. That's the reason we have morality and natural law. That's why God created the world this way. That's why you created the world this way. You created it this way in the sense that you came here to this kind of world for a reason. You didn't get thrust into this world against your will. I completely reject that idea. It's a choice. We came here. Not saying all the suffering that we receive is a choice. It's not. And this is what I say, about children. They're defenseless. Okay, they need our help. But in order to be born in the world, you have to spiritually agree to live in a reality where you earn what you experience, and you have to create. You have to. You don't live unless you create. You don't live unless you produce. You have to love in order to live. And only confidence can do that. It's an optimism, and it comes from a place of inner peace, an inner stillness, because it's a faith, actually. It's a faith that work can be done and that good things can happen. That's real faith. So next topic is faith. To have true faith, especially in today's world, is to have confidence in yourself. They call it self-love, and it is, but a more accurate description for me would just be self-confidence. Not arrogance, not narcissism, but it's an inner security to do the right thing because of the faith that righteousness is rewarded in the world. That if you do the right thing will happen to you, right? And not just the right thing in a noble, heroic, like honor code kind of way, like a chivalrous way, not just sacrificing to save the children or volunteering or working overtime to make a better life for your family. I'm also talking about the inner security to seek pleasure and seek reward. And it's every bit as important as faith in righteousness. How about faith in yourself to experience what you love? Why not? Why should you not reach for the stars? I don't get it. Why do we not go out and pursue the woman you want, the career you want, and the life you want? And I'm not talking about base pleasures. I used to do that too. I used to pursue what I wanted to get high, to party, and to basically live my life like a gangster movie. And that's not what I'm talking about, obviously. I did that because of my lack of confidence. That lack of self-confidence made me do that. And time showed, of course, those rewards that I got were short-lived and they were illusory. And they came at a way higher price because they were unearned. It's not actually pleasurable to take drugs. Like, big spoiler alert for everybody who hasn't been. It's not actually fun in the long term. It just like fucks with your memory to make you think that it's fun. Actually, not in any sustainable way. It's not fun. Sustainable pleasure and reward is to pursue real truth and love the way you pursue crack cocaine. Yes, and yes, that includes sex, big time, with somebody who shares your ideals and shares your values. Unfortunately, you don't hear that in church, and it's unfortunate because that's exactly the message that Jesus Christ came with. If you're honest with yourself, that is the spirit of where that message will take you, where it will lead you. When people lose confidence, they give up on the idea of pleasure and the idea of reward, that life will give them what they want. A certain body or money or anything like that. That's a loss of faith. That's a faith crisis. And most of the world is stuck there. So the way to get out of this, right, this faith, people call it hope. But I don't use the word hope because it has the connotation of something happening to you without your influence. Like you just hope for something. I like the word faith because faith is a confidence that things will work as intended, that the universe will work as intended, and with effort the right things will happen. And it contains the self, just like love. Faith is individualistic in nature because it's confidence. It's the confidence that you are sufficient to receive God's grace and mercy. Love is individualistic as well. It doesn't exist without an individual to give or receive it. It doesn't exist in a vacuum. Yes, it comes from a cosmic unity, pre-individuation, but love itself is individual, like that beam of light. And I say it's selfish because it tends toward individualization. The driving force of the universe, this is what inspires the creation and development of individuals. So yeah, sure, you can have like love for all, love for God, love for the planet, but even then, only if you're an individual. And the more independent and confident a person is, the more love they have to give. Okay? Now, when you get groups of people, right, where they de-emphasize individuality, putting their value outside and above the individual, you know, it's not me, all credit to God, you know, alhamdulillah, all credit due to God, not you. Or what we have, you know, our modern religions all care for what? For earth, for the environment, for social justice, all, you know, all care for that, no care for human use, no regard for human pleasure and nice things. And that, being part of those groups, people go into those groups, and it makes their value dependent on the group. But the force of love is there for the uplifting of the individual. So that warm feeling that they feel at Mass, or when you go to protests, or when you read your Torah, it's like those drugs. It's short-lived and it's illusory. It's a short-lived, illusory version of love because it doesn't come from within you. You're not sustaining it with your own will and action. And when you take away that church and that union and that fellowship, whatever it may be, what do you have left? You got fear, you got uncertainty, you got inadequacy, you got inner restlessness again. You might as well be, you know, in the same old place. And people tag along into these groups where nobody has any confidence. And the sentiment is, why should we have confidence in ourselves? Because we are so inferior compared to Jesus and the Lord. Or like, why should we be confident and feel good about ourselves if we're poisoning the earth and poisoning the animals? You know? Or why should we be confident about anything since we're going to die anyway? Why should we love ourselves if we're sinners and selfish? These groups allow for this kind of thinking, and it's because in those groups no one has any confidence, so they feel okay about it because everybody kind of feels good. Because, not that they feel good, it's just that nobody feels bad. Nobody feels like they're a bad person or they're not good enough. Because there's no difference there. There's no differentiation. Everyone is just as lowly and just as humble. And that's the reason people are drawn to it, because it's an escape from the fear that we feel. It's the fear of living in a world that tells us we're not good enough and someone else is. It's specifically that second part is that somebody else is better than you. That's the most crippling thought that reality throws at you. And it's like so raw that everybody knows it, but nobody talks about it. And to defeat that is a long, painful road. It's like carrying the cross on your back to the place where you're going to get nailed to it and left to die there for a few days in the sun. That's what that feels like internally. And either you give up and check out spiritually, or you find real love of self and confidence in that journey, and you find it through faith. It's the faith that you can reach a place where, in the place where it matters most, no one is better than you. Where it really matters most, nobody's got you beat. So, and the place where it does matter the most is in your choice to develop and grow as an individual. Nobody will ever do that better than you, because they're not you. Only you can do that. Only you can take your own cross and bear it. That's what that story's about. So, ironically, modern religion replaces that treacherous, personal, heroic journey. It replaces it with a safe, secure, pseudo-parental authority, where there's no comparison, everybody's loved equally, there's no imbalance, no one's comparing you to the next person, there's no competition, because the next person has the same amount of confidence as the next, as the next, and as the next, because it's all derived from a common central place. And that's why none of those organizations never achieve their goal. That's why the Christians never do. Their ministry doesn't work. They never bring the mercy of Jesus to the people. The social justice organizations never get social justice. It seems to get more and more prejudiced, right? That's why these community volunteering groups are filled with people who are unhappy, deeply unhappy, sad, and disillusioned. This is why the people who are just trying to help others all day, they're frustrated, they're resentful. People who focus on people other than themselves find themselves to resent the people they're helping. It feels like it shouldn't be that way, but it makes sense, because in order to help others, in order to give them love, it requires you to be on that heroic journey for you, learning to love yourself. So again, love is individualistic. Loving a person is, so my definition of love is wanting the best for a person and also wanting to be the best for them. It's downright selfish. And people throughout history have tried to claim that means that we're corrupt, that our desire to be like wanted and desired by the person we love is like there's something wrong with that. We should selflessly just want them to get the best, even if it's not us. So, and because we can't reach that point because it's impossible, then we should actually condemn ourselves, our selfishness, condemn that, and we should love indiscriminately somehow. And it's an impossible contradiction. Love is discriminatory. It doesn't function without boundaries. If everything blends into everything else and shares everything, then there is no love, because it's not special. In other words, there is no individuality. So don't get it twisted. It's not a flaw of humans that it hurts you to think about the person you love with someone else. It's actually your gift. It's your gift as a human being. It's the greatest gift of love that we've ever been given. And it's called our desire for love. Not only that we want the best for them, but we want to be that for them. Because it's individual. It's about us being that. It's about aligning our reality with the concept that we seek. And that means a desire for truth. It's our desire to accept truth. Not that we crave that or want that, but deeply that is our higher aspiration. That's our way out of suffering, and that's our salvation. It's to pursue truth and love. And no matter what background you come from, no matter what religion, if it's worth anything, that's what it tells you, and they do. But people don't speak that language. So now let's get into the choice. I mentioned choice. This is what it's all about. So what we are faced with, the struggles we have, heartbreak, abandonment, illness, grief, loss, hardship, if your health is falling apart, we have no choice about that. And when we receive that, the message that pops up in your internal being, in your heart, is you're not good enough. For whatever reason, whatever it is that you desire, you can't have. And there's no way to avoid that. That's an inevitable part of life. I'm not an existentialist, right? I'm not one of these guys that's like, oh my God, life is suffering. But that's true. There is no way to avoid that. But then you have the choice. You have the choice in what direction you take that bomb that reality blasts you with. So the choice is desire for love or fear of truth are your two choices. So option one is because our confidence has been taken from us, we take that as an eternal condemnation. That will never be good enough. No matter what you do, you won't have this, and somebody else will. Remember, this is only relevant in the context with other people. If you were on a deserted island, you wouldn't have these feelings. It only comes up in a comparative context. It seems like it doesn't make sense, but there's a reason it works this way, because we develop ourselves through measuring ourselves up against other individuals. If there were no individuals around, then what's the incentive to do anything? So that's not to dwell on what you can have. It's to make you strive for what you can have and get it. And that brings us to option two. So you still start with the same voice, the same cold water of reality. You're not good enough. Whatever it is that you desire, you can't have. You start there. Remember, option one is to accept it as inevitable. Option two is to point that finger back and say no. And that answer isn't good enough. And you ask the question, why and why not? Why am I not good enough? Why can I not have this? Why do I feel this way? And why shouldn't I get what I desire? And everyone will give their own answer because it's a personal journey. Like I said, personal journey, different for everybody. But whatever your journey is, it's going to teach you these two things. Number one is acceptance. That you don't have what you desire. Difficult, but much more difficult than that acceptance is a celebration of the receiver of the object of your desire. Whoever has it, what you want, is an individual which struggles just like you. So don't curl into a ball because it's not you. Celebrate that it's still possible. You're not celebrating the person. Fuck that. Fuck being, I'm so happy for him. He has everything that I want. That's not what it's about. You're celebrating the idea that it's possible because you're part of that. Right? You're aspiring to that concept. And because it's possible, you can get it. So remember, we're still on one, right? This is the first thing it teaches you. Two is rejection. So it's refusing and rejecting the idea that this is the way it has to be. Again, bullshit. You don't have to live in that victim mentality. You are not a victim in this circumstance. The only real victims of this world are children. As I've said, they're not ready for the brutality of this world, and that's why they do need to be protected. Everyone else, you take your struggle and you use it as an opportunity for triumph. You take the I'm not good enough and you put in the will and the force to make yourself good enough. Not in the way that you currently desire. Like, obviously you can't have that. I'm not saying that, I'm not doing like the stupid new age law of attraction thing, which is telling someone who's hungry, you just got to visualize the food that you want and then you'll have it. No, it's, a man with no legs is not going to grow legs. Obviously, that's not what I'm saying. But even in the most tragic circumstances, the heroic journey is always an option. Even if you are doing life in jail, you still have the heroic journey at your disposition. You still have it as a choice. The heroic journey meaning your choice to handle that pain with dignity. It's the choice to do better. Whatever it is that you do it in a way that makes you look in the mirror and you feel at peace with your effort. And I call this the rejection of fear. So the first is acceptance of truth, acceptance of reality. The second is rejection of fear. Who cares what other people think? Other people don't matter. You can only change what you think. That's the answer. And at the end of the day, even when you do all that, you're still going to have the desire. You're still going to think about that thing that you don't have. And, obviously you can live with that. Everybody does. You can live with that. You can still have a very rewarding life. It will still be always a hole within you, but you can make it a hole, a void that pushes you to be a better individual and to become more of your true self. But there is even a choice out of that reality. You can work daily on your desires and cultivate right? You can feed desires, you can cultivate it, you can choose to think about them. You can cultivate a desire that becomes stronger and stronger and grows, and one day it surpasses the one that you can't have. You get what I mean? And this one you can have, and it's the desire to be someone who loves truth and honesty with ourselves. So we can turn the words "you're not good enough" into a signal. It's a signal that triggers the release of faith and confidence, okay? Like endorphins. Things that will guide us towards love, faith, and confidence. And that's the choice. The choice is to take it as a call to action. That's how I'm intending it. And that's how the universe intends it, in the way that we're structured. Bottom line, yeah, it's true. You're not good enough right now, but you are, because you can be. It's all still ours to have. That's it. Thanks so much. See you next week. Maybe with some news with This Week in Tyranny.
Cause I'm fed up with that bullshit. I'm fed up with that bullshit. I'm fed up with that bullshit. I'm fed up with that